He smiled for the cameras and thanked me without saying my name. His uncle beamed like he'd built an empire, and I stood in the wings with 6 patents in my name and a plan in motion. They thought I needed them. They didn't know the launch was built on everything I hadn't signed away. The nephew basked in borrowed glory while I counted down the days until their house of cards would fall. They'd forgotten one crucial detail. The foundation they stood on was mine. My name is Danielle Foster, and I've spent the last 12 years of my life building something extraordinary from nothing. At 38, I should have been standing on that stage, not watching from the shadows as my life's work was attributed to a boy who couldn't tell a protein fold from a paper fold. The ballroom at the Four Seasons sparkled with champagne flutes and forced smiles. Lantros Biotech's billion-dollar launch event was everything Jared Calloway had dreamed of: sleek presentations, impressed investors, and his golden boy nephew at the center of it all. I smoothed my black dress and tried to keep my hands from shaking as I watched the PowerPoint slides flash across the massive screens. My diagrams, my molecular models, my breakthrough algorithms that had taken 4 years to perfect. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jared's voice boomed through the speakers, his silver hair gleaming under the stage lights. "I want to thank our incredible technical team for their dedication." He paused, that practiced CO pause he'd perfected over the years. "And special recognition goes to our head of innovation, Lucas Calloway, whose fresh perspective and brilliant insights made this revolutionary product line possible." The audience erupted in applause. Lucas, all 26 years of him with his MBA still warm from the printer, stepped forward in his perfectly tailored suit. 4 months. He'd been with the company 4 months, and here he was, soaking up credit for work that had consumed my nights, weekends, and every spare moment of my existence. I felt Maya's hand on my elbow. My best friend since MIT had flown in from Seattle just for this event, expecting to celebrate my triumph. Instead, she was witnessing my professional assassination. "Danielle," she whispered, her lawyer instincts already on high alert. "This is wrong. Your name should be—" "Shh." I kept my eyes fixed on the stage, memorizing every word, every gesture. "Not here." Lucas was speaking now, fumbling through technical terms he'd memorized but didn't understand. "The proprietary molecular simulation technology allows us to predict protein interactions with 97% accuracy." He read from his notes. I'd written those notes. I'd achieved that accuracy rate after 2,000 failed iterations. A reporter raised her hand. "Mr. Calloway, can you elaborate on how the binding mechanism works with the target receptors?" Lucas's smile faltered for just a second. I knew that look. I'd seen it in every meeting where I'd tried to explain the actual science to him. "Well, that's quite technical," he deflected with a nervous laugh. "But essentially, we've created a revolutionary approach that our team developed through extensive collaboration." Our team. The words tasted like battery acid in my mouth. Our team consisted of me working until 3 a.m. in the lab while Lucas attended networking events and golf tournaments with his uncle. The presentation continued, each slide another knife between my ribs. The 6 patents that formed the backbone of the entire product line, my patents, filed under my name alone because of what HR had called an administrative oversight in my employment contract, were reduced to a single bullet point: proprietary technology protected by comprehensive IP portfolio. After the main presentation, investors and journalists swarmed Lucas and Jared. I watched from my corner, invisible as always, the technical team lead who'd built an empire from scratch, reduced to background decoration at her own triumph. "Danielle Foster." A voice startled me. A journalist I didn't recognize stood there with her phone out. "Samantha Liu from Biopharma Weekly. I've been researching the patent filings for this product line. Your name appears as the sole inventor on 6 critical patents. Care to comment on your role in the development?" Before I could answer, Jared materialized beside us like a corporate ghost. "Ms. Foster is one of our valued technical contributors," he said smoothly, his hand landing on my shoulder with the weight of a threat. "We're proud of our collaborative culture here at Lantros. Now, if you'll excuse us, Danielle has some urgent lab work to attend to." The dismissal was clear. The journalist's eyes narrowed, sensing a bigger story, but she allowed herself to be steered away by Jared's assistant. Jared's grip tightened on my shoulder. "A word, Danielle?" He guided me to a quiet corner, his paternal mask slipping to reveal the calculating businessman underneath. "You've been an invaluable asset to this company," he said, voice low. "But let's not confuse technical contribution with leadership. Lucas has the vision to take this company forward. You're a brilliant engineer, but some people are meant to build, and others are meant to lead." I met his eyes steadily. "And some people are meant to own what they create." His face darkened. "Be very careful. Danielle, you have a good position here. It would be a shame to lose it over misunderstandings about your role." I smiled then, the first genuine smile I'd had all evening. "Of course, Mr. Calloway, I understand my role perfectly." He didn't know it yet, but I just declared war. The memories flooded back as I sat in my home office that night, Maya across from me with her legal pad already filling with notes. How had I let it get this far? 12 years ago, Lantros Biotech was nothing more than Jared Calloway's midlife crisis wrapped in venture capital. I was employee number 7, fresh from my postdoc at Stanford, hungry to build something that mattered. The office was a converted warehouse in Denver's industrial district, all concrete floors and exposed pipes. We worked off folding tables and shared one ancient coffee maker that only worked if you hit it twice. "You're brilliant, Danielle," Jared had said during my interview, his enthusiasm infectious. "We need someone who can think beyond conventional boundaries, someone who can build our entire molecular simulation platform from scratch." I'd believed him. God help me. I'd believed every word. Those early years were brutal and beautiful. 18-hour days were standard. I'd coded until my eyes burned, ran simulations through the night, rebuilt our entire modeling system 3 times when we hit dead ends. While others went home to families, I lived in that lab, surviving on takeout and determination. "Remember when you missed my birthday party?" Maya asked, pulling me back to the present. "You were in the middle of breakthrough number what for?" "The protein folding algorithm," I murmured. I'd finally cracked the stability problem. The first patent application went in 3 years later, then the second, by year 5. I had 6 groundbreaking patents that formed the foundation of everything Lantros would become. The lawyers had been sloppy with my employment contract, a startup mistake that meant my inventions remained my personal intellectual property unless explicitly assigned to the company. I'd meant to fix it, but there was always another deadline, another breakthrough demanding attention. The promises started around year 6. "VP of Engineering is yours, Danielle. Just let us get through this funding round." Then, "Chief Technology Officer absolutely, right after the IPO." Always another milestone, another excuse. I pulled up the email folder I'd labeled Evidence and turned my laptop toward Maya. "Look at this timeline. Year 7. My promotion to Senior Technical Lead, with a salary that was 60% below market rate. Year 8. The first streamlining of the org chart that somehow placed 2 men above me despite their lack of technical knowledge. Year 9. My formal application for VP of Engineering, rejected for lack of leadership experience. Year 10. Lucas Calloway joins as creative assistant straight from his MBA program. "This email is particularly special," I said, clicking on a message from year 11. Jared explaining why Lucas needs to be fast-tracked to management. Quote, "Fresh perspectives are essential for innovation. Sometimes technical expertise can create tunnel vision." Maya's expression darkened as she read. "And you stayed. Where else could I do this work? I'd built everything from scratch. Every algorithm, every process, every breakthrough, it was all interconnected. All mine. Starting over somewhere else meant abandoning my life's work." I showed her the folder of meeting minutes where my name had been systematically removed from presentations, the emails where Lucas asked me to walk him through the technology before investor meetings, the org announcement making him Director of Innovation, while I remained Senior Technical Lead. This one's from last month, I said, opening a screenshot. The final investor deck for the launch. Compare it to my original presentation. Maya studied both documents, my slides dense with technical detail. Honest about challenges and solutions had been transformed into Lucas's version buzzword soup, with fancy graphics and my name erased from every page. But you own the patents, Maya said slowly. They never had you sign them over. Administrative oversight, I quoted bitterly. HR kept saying they'd handle it in the next contract review. Somehow it never happened. I'd discovered the truth 2 weeks before the launch event. A routine patent search for competitive intelligence had shown all 6 patents still registered under my name alone. No assignment to Lantros Biotech on file. The very foundations of their billion-dollar product line rested on intellectual property they didn't own. Jared knows, I said. That conversation tonight confirmed it. He's hoping I'm too intimidated or too naive to realize what I have. Maya set down her pen. Danielle, you understand what this means. You could destroy them. I finished. No, that's not what this is about. This is about taking back what's mine. About showing them that the brilliant engineer they pushed aside owns the kingdom they're trying to rule. I pulled up one last document, an email I'd never sent, drafted 6 months ago when Lucas had been promoted over me again. Dear Jared, I read aloud, a good soldier knows when to follow orders. A great soldier knows when the war has changed. Consider this my declaration of independence. Maya smiled, the shark-like grin I remembered from law school. So what's the battle plan? First, we document everything, every email, every meeting, every time my contributions were minimized or erased. Then we wait for them to make the next move. I close my laptop. They think I'm just a cog in their machine, too focused on the science to understand the business. They're about to learn that building the technology means I know exactly how to take it apart. The champagne from the launch event had long since gone flat, but I raised my glass anyway. To 12 years of being underestimated, and to making sure it never happens again. The war began at 7:45 a.m. on a Tuesday, with me sitting in my office pretending everything was normal. My computer screen displayed the usual morning routine protein simulations running, emails flooding in, coffee growing cold. But underneath my desk, my phone recorded every word as Lucas burst through my door without knocking. Danielle, I need you to prepare a technical brief for the Henderson Industries meeting, he announced, not bothering with pleasantries. Something simple that I can present without getting bogged down in details. I kept typing. The Henderson meeting is in 3 hours. Perhaps you should have prepared earlier. His face flushed. I've been focusing on strategic vision. That's what leaders do. The technical stuff is your department. Is it? I pulled up the meeting invite on my screen. Strange. I wasn't included in this strategic discussion about my own technology. Look, he said, attempting what he probably thought was a conciliatory tone. We all have our roles. You're brilliant at the science. Let me handle the business side. I finally looked up, meeting his eyes with perfect calm. Of course, Lucas, I'll send you something appropriate for your level of understanding. After he left, I did exactly that. The brief I sent was technically accurate, but stripped of every nuance that made our technology revolutionary. Without my explanations, it read like generic marketing copy. Let him present that to Henderson's technical team. Maya called during lunch. I've been reviewing your employment contract all morning. Danielle, this is even better than we thought. Look at clause 15.3. I pulled up the document. There it was, buried in legalese. Inventions created using personal time and resources remain the sole property of the employee unless explicitly assigned in writing to Lantros Biotech, Inc. Personal time and resources, Maya repeated. How many of those late nights were off the clock? How much of your own equipment did you use? All of it, in the beginning, I said, remembering. I bought my own servers for the initial modeling, used my home computer for coding after hours. Jared was too cheap to provide proper equipment the first 2 years. Document everything, every receipt, every timestamp, every login from your personal devices. I spent the afternoon creating a meticulous timeline. The patent applications aligned perfectly with periods I'd worked from home. Using my own purchased software licenses, the evidence was overwhelming. At 4 p.m., Samantha Liu from Biopharma Weekly called. "Ms. Foster, I've been digging into those patents. Would you be willing to comment on your role as sole inventor?" "I appreciate your interest," I said carefully, "but I'm not authorized to speak to media about company matters." "I understand, but hypothetically, if someone held patents critical to a billion-dollar product launch, wouldn't that be material information for investors?" I said nothing, but my silence spoke volumes. That evening, I stayed late officially working on Lucas's requested brief for tomorrow's meeting with Jensen Corp. In reality, I was downloading every email, every document, every piece of evidence that showed my true contributions, legal downloads of my own work, all within company policy. The security guard did his rounds at 9 p.m. "Working late again, Ms. Foster." "You know me, Marcus. Can't keep away from the science." He chuckled. 12 years and you still love it. That's dedication." If only he knew. At 10:30 p.m., an email popped up from Jared. "Danielle, please ensure Lucas has everything he needs for the upcoming technical presentations. Your cooperation is noted and appreciated." Translation: Stay in your lane or else. I drafted my response carefully. "Mr. Calloway, I'm committed to ensuring the technical accuracy of all presentations. However, I notice my name has been omitted from several key documents. Per my original contract, proper attribution is required for all patent-related work. I trust this oversight will be corrected." His response came within minutes. "Let's discuss this in person tomorrow. My office, 8 a.m. Maya texted immediately she was monitoring my email remotely. "He's rattled. Don't go alone." "I won't, but I'm not bringing a lawyer yet. Too aggressive." "Then record everything." I smiled at my reflection in the dark window. Already am. That night, I compiled everything into organized folders. Email threads showing how my ideas were presented as Lucas's innovations. Meeting recordings where I'd explained complex concepts only to have them regurgitated without attribution. Financial documents showing my below-market compensation while the company valued my inventions at billions. The final piece was a revelation I discovered that afternoon. While reviewing old lab notebooks, I'd found my original sketches for the core technology dated 2 months before I'd officially joined Lantros. The fundamental breakthrough had occurred during my postdoc. Using Stanford's resources, Jared had hired me specifically because of that innovation, but it had never been formally transferred to the company. I sent Maya a secure message. "The foundation patent. The one everything else builds on predates my employment. They don't just lack ownership of 6 patents. They built an empire on land they never purchased." Her response was immediate. "Holy shit, you own the entire kingdom." I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at my window, looking out at Denver's glittering skyline. Somewhere in those lights, Jared and Lucas were probably celebrating their success, confident in their control. They had no idea their kingdom was built on sand, and I was about to prove that the tide comes in for everyone, even those who think they're untouchable. Tomorrow's meeting would be interesting. Jared expected submission or negotiation. He wouldn't get either. What he'd get was the beginning of his education in what happens when you mistake quiet competence for weakness. The unraveling began at the Biotech Innovation Summit in Boston, 3 weeks after the launch event. I wasn't supposed to be there. Jared had made it clear that Lucas would represent Lantros's technical leadership, but Dr. Patricia Weiss from Henderson Industries had other ideas. "Danielle," she caught me during the coffee break. "I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk about Lucas Calloway's presentation yesterday." I kept my expression neutral. "Oh, it was a disaster." Patricia didn't mince words. "He couldn't answer a single technical question. When Dr. Kumar asked about the binding affinity calculations, Lucas actually said, and I quote, 'That's proprietary information we don't disclose.' The calculations that you published in your patent applications." I sipped my coffee. How unfortunate. "Danielle, I've known you for 8 years. I've watched you build this technology from nothing. What the hell is going on at Lantros? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, the security guard. Heads up, Mr. C and Lucas just arrived. They're looking for you. Patricia, I need to... Wait. She handed me her business card with a number written on the back. My direct line. Henderson is always interested in genuine innovation and the people who actually create it. I pocketed the card just as Jared materialized beside us, Lucas trailing behind like a lost puppy. Dr. Weiss? Jared oozed charm. I hope Lucas answered all your questions yesterday. Patricia's smile could have frozen nitrogen. He certainly provided answers. Whether they were correct is another matter entirely. She turned to me. Danielle, let's continue our discussion soon. After she left, Jared's mask slipped. You weren't authorized to attend this conference. I'm using personal time, I replied, and paying my own way, unless Lantros wants to start covering professional development. Lucas, trying to assert authority he didn't have, jumped in. You're undermining the leadership team by being here. Am I? I pulled out my phone and showed them my LinkedIn notifications. Interesting, 47 connection requests since yesterday, all asking why the inventor of Lantros's core technology isn't on the leadership team. Should I tell them to direct questions to you? Lucas, perhaps about molecular binding mechanisms. His face went pale. The Henderson debacle was clearly still fresh. That afternoon, Biopharma Weekly published Samantha Liu's article, Questions Arise About Leadership at Billion-Dollar Biotech. She'd been thorough, noting the discrepancy between patent records and corporate presentations. My name appeared 17 times. Lucas's appeared twice, both times followed by phrases like, could not provide technical details, and deferred questions to technical staff. The internal fallout was swift. I returned to Denver to find my email flooded with messages from the board of directors. The head of R&D at our biggest client wanted clarification on who exactly is responsible for the innovations we're paying for. 3 senior engineers requested meetings with me, bypassing Lucas entirely. Wednesday's all-hands meeting was supposed to be Lucas's moment to address concerns. Instead, it became his public execution. Let me be clear, he began, reading from cards I knew he'd practiced all night. Our technology is the result of collaborative effort. Excuse me. Dr. James Morrison from the development team interrupted. Lucas, can you explain why the latest protein modeling results are showing 30% variance from predicted values? Lucas froze. We're investigating. Because Danielle identified this issue 2 weeks ago. James continued. She sent you a detailed analysis with solutions. Did you read it? I've been focused on strategic. Did you read it? The silence stretched. Around the room, engineers who'd spent years watching me solve impossible problems while others took credit finally reached their breaking point. This is ridiculous. Sarah from Bioanalytics stood up. We all know Danielle built this technology. She holds the patents. She fixes every problem while Lucas plays CEO in training. Why are we pretending otherwise? Jared stepped to the microphone. Let's maintain professional. Professional. Roberto from the simulation team laughed bitterly. Professional would be crediting the person who actually does the work. Professional would be promoting based on merit, not nepotism. The meeting devolved from there. Lucas tried to regain control by announcing new innovation initiatives he'd clearly memorized, but every technical question left him floundering. When someone asked about the upcoming FDA submission requirements, he actually said, Danielle will handle those details. Then why isn't Danielle presenting? Someone shouted from the back. By Thursday, 3 major investors had called emergency meetings. The board convened a special session, and Biopharma Weekly had a follow-up story featuring interviews with 5 former Lantros employees, all confirming that I had been the sole technical force behind the company's success. But the killing blow came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kumar from Henderson Industries published a LinkedIn post that went viral in biotech circles. After yesterday's disappointing meeting with Lantros leadership, I did my own research. Every significant innovation from this company traces back to one person, Danielle Foster. Her name is on the patents. Her solutions are in the products, yet she's conspicuously absent from leadership. In an industry built on innovation, we cannot afford to let politics override merit. Henderson Industries will be reconsidering our partnership unless we can work directly with the actual innovators. Friday morning, my inbox contained something new, a meeting request from the board of directors. No Jared, no Lucas, just the board and me. The kingdom was starting to crack. The letter arrived by courier at 9:15 a.m. on Monday morning. Maya's law firm letterhead commanded attention, but it was the content that would detonate Jared's carefully constructed world. Intellectual property rights, U.S. Patents, 9,847,231 through 9,847,236. I watched from my office window as Jared's assistant rushed the envelope to his office. The explosion came 23 minutes later. Danielle, my office, now? I took my time walking down the hall, my heels clicking a steady rhythm on the polished floor. Several colleagues poked their heads out of offices, sensing blood in the water. Jared's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. Lucas sat in the corner, his usual smugness replaced by something that looked like fear. The letter lay open on Jared's desk. "You're firing your lawyer," Jared said without preamble. "This is a misunderstanding we'll handle internally." I sat down uninvited, crossing my legs. "No. Excuse me. No. I won't fire my lawyer. No. This isn't a misunderstanding. And no. We won't handle this internally." I pulled out my phone and set it on the desk. Recording app visibly running. "Would you like to discuss this on the record?" Jared's eyes darted to the phone. "Turn that off. I'd prefer to document this conversation, unless you have something to hide." Lucas found his voice. "You're trying to destroy the company after everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Lucas?" I turned to face him. "Please, enumerate your contributions to my work." His mouth opened and closed like a fish. "That's what I thought." I turned back to Jared. "The letter is clear. I own those patents. Lantros has been using my intellectual property without permission or compensation. We can resolve this professionally, or we can resolve it in court." "You developed that technology on company time," Jared snarled. "Did I?" I pulled out a folder. "Here's my timesheet data for the past 12 years. Note the 60 to 80-hour weeks. Note that I was never paid overtime. Note that I only claimed 40 hours per week, making the rest personal time. Here are receipts for equipment I purchased myself. Here are the original development logs showing work done from my home computer, outside business hours." I placed another document on the desk. "And here's the most interesting part. The fundamental breakthrough, the one filed as Patent 9,847,231, occurred during my postdoc at Stanford, 2 months before I joined Lantros. You hired me because of that innovation, but it was never assigned to the company." The color drained from Jared's face as the implications hit him. "You vindictive little—" He caught himself. "We made you. This company gave you opportunity. This company exploited me for 12 years. My voice remained perfectly calm. "Below market salary, denied promotions, erased contributions, but please, continue. My lawyer will find the recording useful." Lucas stood up, trying to salvage some authority. "We'll sue you for breach of fiduciary duty, industrial espionage, theft of trade secrets." "Lucas," I smiled. "Do you even know what those terms mean? Can you explain, technically, what trade secrets I allegedly stole? Which specific algorithms? Which processes?" His silence was deafening. "That's the problem with taking credit for work you don't understand." I continued. "You can't even articulate what you think I've taken because you never knew what you had in the first place." Jared's phone rang. He glanced at it and paled further. "It's Morrison from the board." "You should take that," I suggested. "I believe he received a copy of the letter this morning." As Jared answered, his assistant knocked. Sir Channel 9 is here. They're asking about patent disputes and seeking comment. I stood. Gentlemen, you have 72 hours to respond to our letter. We're offering reasonable licensing terms, $50 million per patent for past use. Ongoing royalties of 15%. Alternatively, you can cease using my technology immediately. $300 million, Lucas squeaked. That's extortion. That's below market value for technology supporting a billion-dollar launch, I corrected. But I'm feeling generous. After all, I helped build this company. Jared covered the phone. You won't get away with this. I already have. I picked up my phone. By the way, effective immediately, I'm using my accumulated vacation time. 12 years of unused PTO should give me about 6 months paid leave. My lawyer will handle any necessary communication. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, Lucas, that FDA submission is due in 3 weeks. The technical specifications section needs a complete molecular analysis and predictive modeling report. I'm sure you'll manage fine without me. The last thing I heard before the door closed was Jared screaming into his phone, trying to explain to the board how his billion-dollar launch had just become a $300 million liability. That evening, Maya called with an update. Their general counsel reached out. They're panicking. The board is demanding an emergency audit of all IP holdings. And they've discovered what we already knew. Without your patents, they have marketing fluff and empty promises. Their entire product line becomes legally unsellable. I poured myself a glass of champagne, the good stuff this time. What's their counteroffer? They haven't made one yet. They're still in the denial phase. But my contact at Henderson says they're already drafting a partnership proposal. For you, not Lantros. The war wasn't over, but the battle lines had shifted. For 12 years, they'd thought they owned me. Now they were learning the price of that assumption. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia Weiss. Saw the news. When you're ready to discuss real opportunities with people who value innovation and innovators, call me. I smiled and took another sip of champagne. The kingdom was crumbling, and I hadn't even played my strongest cards yet. My resignation letter was exactly 3 sentences long. No explanations, no justifications, no bridge-burning dramatics, just the facts, effective date, accumulated PTO to be paid out, and a reminder that all intellectual property rights remained with me as per the original employment agreement. I hand-delivered it to HR at 8:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, dressed in my best suit. The kind of suit that says, I have interviews lined up and options you can't imagine. Danielle, Margaret from HR stammered, reading the letter for the 3rd time. This is unexpected. Perhaps we should discuss. I'm sure we can work something out. There's nothing to discuss, I said pleasantly, unless you're prepared to address 12 years of systematic undervaluation. Her silence was answer enough. Within an hour, Jared was in my office with a number written on a piece of paper. $500,000. Severance, he said. Sign a non-disclosure, non-compete, an IP transfer agreement, walk away quiet and rich. I didn't even look at the paper. No. Be reasonable. You'll never get a better offer. Jared, I said, continuing to pack my personal items. I've been reasonable for 12 years. Reasonable got me a title that's 2 levels below my worth and a salary that's insulting. I'm done being reasonable. He leaned forward, dropping his voice. You think you're irreplaceable. I've got 20 bright kids from MIT who'd kill for your job. Then hire them. I placed my MIT alumni mug in the box. I'm sure one of them can explain to the FDA why your molecular models are showing variants. I'm sure they can defend the patent applications I wrote. I'm sure they can maintain the relationships I built with every major research institution in the country. Lucas appeared in the doorway. The team is asking questions. What should I tell them about the transition? I smiled. Tell them the truth. Lucas, you're the head of innovation. Innovate. By lunch, the news had spread through the building like wildfire. My email inbox filled with messages from colleagues, some supportive, others panicked about their own projects. The development team sent a group message. Please don't leave us with him. But the universe had already shifted. That afternoon, while I was cleaning out my files, Dr. Patricia Weiss called. "I heard you're exploring new opportunities," she said without preamble. News travels fast. In biotech. At light speed. Here's my offer. VP of Product Development at Theragene Labs. Base salary, $300,000. Equity package. Full autonomy over your research team. And Danielle, we understand the value of intellectual property. Any patents you develop remain yours with favorable licensing to us. I sat back in my chair. That's generous. That's market value for someone who single-handedly built a billion-dollar product line. We've been watching you for years, hoping Lantros would eventually fumble. They just did. I need to think. Of course. But Danielle, we're also interested in licensing your existing patents. Our legal team has reviewed the filings. We're prepared to offer significantly better terms than whatever Lantros eventually proposes. After she hung up, I found Maya's number in my contacts. How quickly can you draft a licensing agreement? Already have a template ready. Why? Because Theragene just made an offer that changes everything. The rest of the afternoon was a parade of desperate retention attempts. The CFO offered a retroactive promotion. The head of R&D suggested a consulting arrangement. Even some board members reached out directly, suddenly very interested in hearing my concerns about company culture. But the most telling moment came when I ran into Sarah from bioanalytics in the parking garage. "Is it true?" she asked. "You're really leaving?" "It's true." She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "I've been here 8 years, watched you solve every impossible problem they threw at you, watched them give credit to everyone but you. Part of me always wondered why you stayed." Honestly, so did I. "Well," she said, pulling out her phone, "when you land wherever you're going and you need a good bioanalytics lead," she sent me her personal contact information. "I'm not the only one who'd follow you." That evening, I met Maya at her hotel to review the Theragene offer. "This is incredible," she said, reading through the contract. "They're not just hiring you, they're essentially offering to partner with you. And this IP clause? They recognize that innovation comes from innovators, not companies," I finished. "There's one thing, though." She pulled out her tablet. "Lantros finally responded to our patent letter. They're claiming the work was done for hire, that you have no right to the patents." I laughed, actually laughed. They're going to argue that the work I did at Stanford before they hired me was work for hire, that the developments I made on my personal equipment during unpaid overtime belong to them. "Desperation makes people stupid," Maya agreed. "But this means they're going to fight. Let them—" I signed the Theragene offer letter with a flourish. They can explain to their investors why they're spending millions in legal fees to fight the person who actually understands their technology. Meanwhile, I'll be building the next generation of innovations with a company that knows my value. My phone buzzed. Another text from a Lantros engineer. "Lucas just asked me to explain your protein folding algorithm. I told him to check your published papers. He asked what papers. I think he's crying." I showed Maya the text. "You know what the real irony is? I would have stayed. If they'd just given me the recognition I earned, the position I deserved, I would have built them an empire. Instead, you'll build your own," Maya said, raising her wine glass. "With better terms," I added, clinking my glass against hers. "And much better management." The conference room at Morrison & Associates law firm felt like a battlefield, mahogany table gleaming like armor, legal pads arranged like weapons, and enough tension to choke on. I sat beside Maya, perfectly calm, while across from us, Jared led a phalanx of lawyers that must have cost more per hour than I'd made in a month. "Let's cut through the pleasantries," Jared began, his CEO mask firmly in place. "We're prepared to offer Dr. Foster a consulting arrangement, $1 million annually for exclusive access to her expertise." I didn't even blink. "No." His lead counsel, a shark in Armani named Richard Steinberg, leaned forward. "Dr. Foster, perhaps you don't understand the generosity of this offer." "I understand perfectly." I opened my folder and laid out 6 documents. Patent 9847231 through 236. My name is sole inventor. No assignment to Lantros Biotech. Current market valuation based on your own investor presentations, $1.1 billion. Those patents were developed using company resources, Steinberg argued. Maya slid a stack of receipts across the table. Personal laptop purchased by Dr. Foster, software licenses in her name, server rental paid with her credit card, development logs showing work performed outside business hours. Would you like to continue claiming company resources? I pulled out another document. Here's something interesting. The foundational algorithm, the one your entire product line depends on, was published in my Stanford dissertation, 2 months before I joined Lantros. Jared, you recruited me specifically because of that work. Remember. The color drained from several faces around the table. We can make this very difficult for you, another lawyer threatened. Litigation could take years, legal fees alone. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. I should mention that Theragene Labs has agreed to cover all my legal expenses as part of my employment package. They're very interested in licensing my patents, ethically, legally, with proper compensation. Jared's mask finally cracked. You vindictive. Choose your next words carefully, Maya warned. We're recording this meeting. I leaned forward. Here's my offer, and it's the only one you'll get. Licensing fee of $50 million per patent for past use. Ongoing royalties of 15% of all revenue derived from my technology. Full public acknowledgement of my role as inventor. $300 million. Lucas, who'd been silent until now, practically shrieked. Plus royalties. That's insane. Is it? I turned to him. Your investor deck valued the technology at $1.1 billion. I'm asking for less than 30% of what you told investors my work was worth, unless you lied to them. Steinberg tried another approach. We could argue trade secret theft, industrial espionage, make your life very difficult. Try it, I smiled. I'll countersue for 12 years of wage theft, discrimination, and fraudulent misrepresentation. Imagine the discovery process, every email where my contributions were erased, every meeting where I was excluded, every promotion denied despite outperforming metrics. The press would have a field day. I pulled out my final document. Or we can avoid all of that. Here's option 2. You drop all claims to my patents. Pay me $18 million in unpaid overtime and below-market compensation for 12 years. I keep my IP and license it to whoever I choose. You can try to salvage your product line without my technology. Without your technology, we have nothing, Jared exploded, then caught himself. I know, I said simply. That's what happens when you build an empire on someone else's foundation without paying for the land. The room erupted, lawyers conferring in harsh whispers, Jared's face cycling through shades of red, Lucas looking like he might vomit. Finally, Steinberg called for a recess. As they filed out, he pulled Maya aside. I heard him whisper, "She's got us over a barrel, doesn't she?" Maya's smile was pure predator. She's being generous. If this goes to court, she could take everything. 20 minutes later, they returned with a counteroffer. $25 million per patent, 10% royalties. $40 million per patent, 12% royalties, and public acknowledgement, I countered. $30 million, 12%, and a joint press release, Steinberg offered. I considered. $35 million per patent, that's $210 million total, 12% royalties, a press release clearly stating my role as sole inventor, and one more thing. What? Jared growled. Lucas publicly apologizes for taking credit for my work at the next all-hands meeting. Lucas went white. I won't. Then we go to court. I started packing my papers, and I guarantee the story that comes out during discovery will end more than just your career at Lantros. Fine, Jared snapped, his fury barely contained. We'll agree to your terms. Excellent, I stood, smoothing my skirt. Maya will send over the formal agreement. Oh, and Jared. That FDA submission is due in 8 days. Without my molecular models and documentation, You'll never make it. I suggest you start hiring those bright MIT kids you mentioned. You'll need them." As we walked out, Maya whispered, "That was beautiful." "That was justice," I corrected. 12 years late, but justice nonetheless. Behind us, I heard Jared bark at Lucas. "You told me she was just a lab rat. You said she'd never fight back." I smiled. Lab rats are survivors. They're smart, adaptable, and when cornered, they bite. And I was done being cornered. 6 months later, I stood on a different stage, in a different city, wearing a different title, VP of Product Development at Theragene Labs. The auditorium was packed with scientists, investors, and journalists who'd come to see the unveiling of our new therapeutic platform built on legitimate innovation and properly licensed technology. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady and clear, "science advances through collaboration, recognition, and respect for intellectual property. Today, Theragene Labs demonstrates what's possible when those principles guide our work." In the third row, I spotted several familiar faces, former Lantros engineers who'd followed me to Theragene. Sarah from Bioanalytics now led her own team. James Morrison had joined as Director of Development. Even Marcus, the security guard who'd watched me work late all those years, had applied for a position in our facilities team. "The technology we're presenting today builds upon foundational patents," I continued, clicking to a slide that showed patent numbers and, prominently, my name. "These innovations, properly licensed and attributed, form the cornerstone of therapies that will help millions." The press section was particularly full. The Lantros story had become a cautionary tale in biotech circles. What happens when companies value connections over competence, when they steal credit instead of nurturing talent? Biopharma Weekly had run a devastating series on corporate IP theft, with Lantros as the prime example. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Check the news." I glanced quickly. The headline made me smile. "Lantros Biotech announces restructuring following FDA rejection. CEO Jared Calloway steps down." The FDA submission, it seemed, hadn't gone well without someone who understood the science. After my presentation, Dr. Patricia Weiss approached. "Brilliant work, Danielle. The board is thrilled. Your first quarter numbers are exceeding all projections." "Thank you. But more importantly, the team feels valued, recognized. That makes all the difference." She nodded. "Speaking of recognition, did you see Lucas Calloway's LinkedIn update?" I hadn't. Patricia showed me her phone. Lucas had posted a lengthy apology, admitting to taking credit for work he didn't understand, acknowledging my contributions, and announcing his departure from biotech to pursue other opportunities. The comment section was brutal. "Karma," Patricia said simply. That evening, Theragene hosted a celebration dinner. As I raised my champagne glass, real champagne now, not the cheap stuff from old Lantros parties, I thought about the journey. $210 million had been wired to my accounts. The 12% royalties from Lantros's struggling product line added a steady stream of income, but more than money, I had something invaluable: respect, recognition, the freedom to build and create without someone else stamping their name on my work. "Speech," someone called out. I stood, looking around at my new team. 12 years ago, I believed that good work would speak for itself, that merit would be recognized. I was naive. Nods around the room. Many had their own stories. I learned that sometimes you have to fight for what's yours, that documentation matters, that contracts matter, that knowing your worth matters. I paused. But most importantly, I learned that the best revenge isn't destroying those who wronged you. It's building something better without them. The applause was genuine, warm. These people understood. Later, as I walked to my car, a Tesla now, not the ancient Honda I'd driven for years, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Danielle." The voice was familiar, broken. "It's Jared." I almost hung up. Instead, curiosity won. "What do you want?" "The company. We're facing bankruptcy. The investors are suing. The board fired me. Lucas can't find work anywhere." His voice cracked. You destroyed us. No, Jared. You destroyed yourselves the moment you decided that taking credit was easier than giving it. I just showed everyone what you'd built nothing. I wanted to apologize. I see now what we had, what we threw away. You were the foundation of everything. Yes, I agreed. Silence stretched between us. Is there any chance? He began. No, I cut him off. But I'll give you some free advice. Next time you find someone brilliant, someone who builds miracles in your lab, someone who works 18-hour days to make your dreams reality, pay them what they're worth, promote them, put their name in lights, because Jared, there are no second chances with the people who own the patents. I hung up and looked at the stars above Denver. Somewhere in this city, Lantros was crumbling, but here, in my new life, I was finally building something that was truly mine. My phone buzzed with an email from a young engineer at Stanford, asking for advice about protecting her intellectual property. I smiled and started typing a response. The cycle of innovation continues, but maybe, just maybe, the next generation would be smarter about who owned their miracles. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply taking back what was always yours, and sometimes, that's more than enough to build an empire. Thank you all for listening to my story. I'm curious to know where you're listening from. Please comment below, and let's connect. If you enjoyed this story about justice in the corporate world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts. Have you ever experienced something similar in your workplace? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below.